Hi guys, this is Donna with Love Rocks, and we have a Memorial Day gnome. I wanted to get this one out early because we're going to do some other ones for Memorial Day, but they're going to be a lot easier for our beginner painters that's out there. But I did want to do a Memorial Day gnome for those of you who are following me for the gnomes. Thank you everybody who has subscribed to the channel. We hit another mile marker. We hit the 600 subscribers this last week, and I want to remind you that you have to subscribe to the channel and comment under the video in order to be in the drawing. It's the only way that I can actually pull out who's supporting the channel, and those are the people that I want to make sure and get in the drawing and get rocks out to. So let's get started. I'm so excited about this one. This one was so much fun. I love summertime. I love the holidays, Memorial, 4th of July, everything that comes with it. It brings back such great memories. So this has been a fun one to do. On top of that, I have family that are in the armed forces, and we can never ever say enough good about those who have served in our armed forces. So I feel privileged to be able to do something to acknowledge them. So here we go. We are going to do this gnome. Now, I started this hat out, and I was actually going to, you'll see I put when I sketched it, I sketched that top where you're going to be able to see the top, but then I flipped it and changed it at the last minute because I wanted to be able to see the underside of the hat. So you can follow along with me with the sketch, but know that some of that sketch we're just going to paint over. Sorry about that. I don't want to confuse people, but midway through, I changed my mind and I didn't want to have to erase everything and start over and do another sketch. So just follow along with me. That little bit at the top is going to disappear and you won't even see it. I did start out outlining the hat with white, and that was because since I'm using such a dark color like red, it's hard to get that highlight in if you don't get white underneath it with a white rock. And these are very porous rocks. So I think we've talked about that before. And so I did want to get those edges done with some white so I could kind of hold that red inside and it wouldn't leach out to other parts of it. Also, it helps when I'm doing my highlighting. If you're not using a porous rock, don't worry about it. Just paint that hat red and then we'll go from there. But I love doing gnomes. I do. There's not a gnome out there yet that I haven't enjoyed. I'm trying to give you guys other things so that you don't feel like that's all you're getting on this channel is gnomes. So I wanted to do this one first and get it out of the way. It was a lot of fun. I really loved the little guy. And it'll be fun to give him away. But don't despair if you don't like gnomes or if you don't want to just do gnomes. I've got some other things up my sleeve that are going to be a lot simpler, but still be representative of the holiday that's coming around. Showing you the colors here that I used. You can use any color that you want. I always say that. Red, white, and blue was the basic colors, of course, that I used for this. But I did also use black and some colors for the nose, which were baby pink and, camel. So not very many colors, actually, for one of my paintings, but fairly easy to do. If you have been following and you've been practicing doing some of the gnomes, this one is not going to be difficult for you. The hat that we used for Easter, you can use the same basic shape as that hat. And then, of course, we're going to change out the colors and we're going to change out the brim just a little bit. I wanted it more like a top hat like you would see with with some of your older folks, like, in the 1800s. I wanted a top hat look to it. And then we're going to paint that up and make it very, flag looking. For my reds, I used my favorite red. I used Engine Red. I feel like it's a more true red than any of the other ones. It doesn't fade into pink. And then for blue, I think I used Ink Dot. And then white, I usually use Wicker white. It's a real true white. It doesn't have an iridescence to it. It's got just a nice true white that doesn't have any weird colors. And the reason I like those colors that are very true to color and don't fade one way or the other is I mix a lot of my colors. I mix a lot of my colors because I want this color or that color, or I'm shading, or I'm trying to highlight. And sometimes if you get a pre-mixed color that is a little bit off and you don't see it right away, you'll start mixing it to lighten it or to darken it, and it'll come up with a whole different color because you're playing around with all those primary colors that's in there to mix it to get it to that point. And so you could have brought it down into a whole different color scheme by adding something into it that you thought would lighten it or darken it. So to not have to play that game, to not have to try to figure out what they put together to make a color, I prefer just nice core primary colors, and then I mix my own. But for you, you can do anything you want, but those are the colors that I enjoy using. You'll notice as I'm going along this hat, let's start with the base of the hat. So I went in and I did the base of the hat red. And then I put in my highlights across the top and around that right-hand side. And the reason I did that is because I don't want to have to go back and try to figure out how to darken and highlight those areas after I put in my stripes. That's a pretty difficult thing to do. So get that hat, get it the highlights in it, get it the color that you want before you ever start your stripes. Then I put the blue sash across the front. That's going to be what we put our stars on. So again, get it the way you want it. Get your darks in, get your highlights. I always highlight around the edge of that sash on the right-hand side, and I highlight across the top of it to give it an edge that kind of pulls away from that hat so that you have that distinction. Then you're going to put one thin, lightly thin line between the red and the blue, and you're going to have it in red, and it's going to be a very dark red, and you're going to put it in there. That will give you a bit of a shadow, and it'll really make that sash pop forward. It'll make it pop out for you. Okay, once you get that in, we're going to start putting in our stripes. And I just started in the middle, and then that way I can get them even. One on each side of that, and then one along the edges of the hat. Once you get those in there, depending on the color of rock that you're using, you can decide if you need to add any lining around the hat. Now, I felt like I did. I know when I sprayed this that the white and the white rock are going to blend a little bit. So I put a teeny tiny black edging around that hat. I also, right above the nose, we're going to put the tiniest white line and then the tiniest dark line right above the nose. So the reason being is you want to highlight the edge of that hat. That's going to be your light. It's going to be where the light hits it, and it's going to show that very, very teeny tiny edge of that hat. Then across the brim of the nose, you're going to want a little tiny bit of dark. And what that does is that defines that the nose is coming away from that hat. That nose is not sitting in a two-dimensional up against the hat. It's popping out away from the hat. And then the other thing that you can do is along the underside of the brim of the hat, down along the bottom from the nose all the way down along the bottom. If you darken that, it will give you the illusion that that hat is light at the front and dark towards the back. And it'll give you another experience of pulling that hat into a 3D form. And that's all painting is just constantly making your picture look like it's not on a flat surface. So anything that you can accentuate and give a curvature or show that it's descending back or going around an edge, anything like that is going to give it that look. Now we're going to go in and we're going to put in where we think, somewhat where we think our gray beard's going to be. And then slap in a couple of shoes. You're going to cover most of those shoes, so they don't have to be perfect. I usually put a little bit of a highlight on top, a little dark on the bottom. You can always go back. You can always go back on those shoes if you have to and pull out some of that highlight if you get too much. I want to say on these, I had the right one. I think I had to take some of the highlight out at the very end. Okay, once you get that done and you start working on those sleeves, you're going to want those, the pant legs. I actually put pants on this little guy. I hardly ever put pants on my gnomes, but I put pants on this guy. So we're going to put in the red for the pants and the red for the sleeves. And these pants, when you get to the end, you'll see there's very little of the pants showing. But there's enough of the pants showing that through the hair that it's good to have those pants there. It really brings that out. Okay, now get your sleeves in. And again, they don't have to be perfect, but do get them in. And now we're going to start working on the beard. Now for this guy, I wanted a mustache and a beard. So I started off with, of course, gray is your background. Then I started off with white. And then I'm going to come in with black and white and gray. So if you haven't watched any of my videos where I do hair, I basically have on my palette 3 blobs of paint. I have black, I have white, and then I have a gray in the middle. And usually the gray I mix myself. Well, almost exclusively every time. Because each painting I want a different hue of gray. So this one I wanted to go a little more to the darker color, so I mixed it. Then what you do is you start off with the white and the black, and you get that in there, and then you put in the gray to fill in some of those holes. And then you're going to go back very last, and you're going to run that brush through the black, and then very so lightly through the white, and then you're going to start putting in your black and white hair. What happens is when you do that, those are very, very, very skinny swooshes of hair. My brush has about 25 hairs on it as it is, so it's very tiny. I'm zoomed in pretty tight, so it doesn't look like it's as small as it is. But it's my lining brush, and in order to get those hairs even smaller and more detailed, if you dip it in 2 colors and then you bring it out, you're splitting those 25 hairs or whatever, however many there are, into two different colors. So you're making that hair even thinner. I don't do it right at the beginning because you're going to go over most of that. Most of that's just your highlights and your darks and stuff like that as you're putting in the beard. But at the very end, that's what you're going to want to do because it does give you that, that detail that you're wanting with hair. So once you get it somewhat where you want it, you're going to put in the stars. And I just put in some little basic stars. I didn't get real creative. And I just put in 3. It fit comfortably across that little band, so. And again, you could dot this. You didn't have to put stars if you're not comfortable making such a teeny tiny star. I would say those stars are about, if you look at the eraser on a pencil and you cut that eraser in 4 pieces, those stars are about the size of a quarter of an eraser. So they're pretty tiny. So if you don't feel comfortable doing that, you can always dot it with your dotting tool. It will not hurt a thing. Now I'm going to put the heart in the middle. If you noticed, I kind of sketched it with my pencil, mostly because I wanted to make sure that I got it the size I wanted. Then I went over it with the red. Now you have a lot of paint there. So think about it. You put the gray on the back side, and then you put the hair, which is black and white and gray. And now you're going to put red, and you're also going to put blue. So be careful. I have fans running in my house. I'm in Texas. It's already hot. I have fans running 24/7 in the house. Matter of fact, I sit under a ceiling fan. And so my paint seems to dry fairly fast, sometimes too fast for me. But if your paint is not drying, you will make a mess of that red paint if you go right on top of it and that paint's not dry. So just be forewarned to get that beard kind of dry before you start putting that red in, okay? And then it took me several different layers of red so that I could get it over the top of all that hair and it didn't bleed through. And then that top corner of the heart, we're just going to make that blue. We'll get that in. And I decided I wasn't going to try to put itty bitty little tiny stars on that. So I did use my dotting tool for it. I made his gloves black, just like his shoes. So when we get to that, I just made some little black gloves, and I put those little arms in there as well. And you just have to kind of play with it. I did allow some of the beard to fall over the top of the arms. When you first put the arms in, you'll see that there's no beard, and because it's all under it, and it looks like you're holding that beard down. So it looks kind of weird. So you want a few strands to go over the top of the beard. I also, when I do a mustache, I love for the mustache to go up to the hat. I like for it to go up a little bit, be a little messy. I think it just brings so much character to these guys. And I do put a little bit of highlighting on these gloves. I hope you guys are enjoying this one. I don't know how many people we have out there that still enjoy the gnomes. I try not to paint for myself too much when it comes to videos, but I'll tell you, I love doing gnomes. I absolutely love doing them. So just bear with me and let me get this one out of my system, and then we'll do some other stuff. When it comes to the gnomes, I would say 99% of the time, they are going to be completely my creation. I'll let you know if I find one that I like that, we're gonna take and make our own. But these I make them up as I go. I find something I like. I add 2 or 3 pictures together. I love doing these gnomes. So we've just about got it the way we want it. I put in the stripes. We're going to use a little tiny dotting tool to put in the stars. And there he is. I added a tiny bit more hair. Got it just the way I wanted it. And that's pretty much it. I'll give him a little spray, let him set, make sure he dries real good. Then I'll seal him. And I'm hoping you guys are enjoying these. I did get a lot of feedback on the last video, so we are going to do some videos on my setup and the stuff that I use. Guys, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for watching the videos. And we will see you in another week. I'll put the date of the drawing for this one in the description. Have a great week. Bye.